Hi, this is Steve Webster. Thanks for joining today's thought. I thought I would share this video clip and then comment on it.
Swallowing a kayaker whole. Moments later, that kayaker is spit right out and is alive to tell the story. George Solis joins us tonight from the Telemundo Center in Miami. So, George, walk us through what we're seeing in this video, if you can go kind of moment by moment. And we even heard from the kayaker tonight as well, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. Check out, look, this is the jaw-dropping moment that was caught on video. You can see as the whale briefly submerges the kayaker in the water south of Chile there, his father capturing those heart-pounding moments in the video that has now gone viral. You can actually hear him telling his son, come here, and stay calm and grab the boat. Now, this tale of biblical proportions unfolding on February 8th, according to Adrian Simancas, the man seen there in the video, oblivious to the apparent threat around him as they floated there in the waves. You can see the whale there in the water. Now, without warning, the yellow kayak briefly vanishes and then reappears. The 24-year-old recalling those harrowing moments, saying he thought, look, I'd been eaten. He thought he could feel something approaching him, engulfing him, believing he had lost his life, saying in that first second that he was submerged, he's like, I thought I already lost my life. But amazingly, he was unharmed. His father making his way over to his son, keeping calm and asking him to hold on to his rope, continuing to reassure his son that he is safe. They both keeping cool and calm under pressure now with this whale of a tale to share for all time. Tom?
Yeah, modern day Jonah and the whale story. George, we thank you for.
And now if we go to like an online Bible like YouVersion, you can type in certain things like where did Jonah, where has that been mentioned? Of course, besides the book of Jonah, Jesus himself has referred to Jonah. So it's not supposed to be just a story, but apparently a real event. And now, due to archaeology, we have found Nineveh and so forth. So, some of the things that Jesus was saying about Jonah is like he said, "An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah," meaning his purpose, his sign. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So if we actually go to Jonah, we will see it's 4 chapters. You can pick whatever version you like. I just picked this one for now. And I thought I would go through this a little bit and make some comments and wrap it up for today. So we're pivoting from an actual event where, in this case, it was a whale that got momentarily, just for a few seconds, a kayaker and spit him out. So let's read this and I'll add some comments. So Jonah flees from the Lord. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own god. And they threw the cargo into the sea and lightened the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where did you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to you to make the sea come down for us?" He says, "Pick up and throw me into the sea, and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land. But they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried out to the Lord, "Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man for you. Lord, have done as you pleased." Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. Wow. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord. They offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. Wow. They saw God's hand. There was a huge storm and suddenly calmness. Not a coincidence. So in Jonah's prayer, now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Now, does it say whale? Nope. It just says a huge fish. So we go real quick to here, to Jonah 2. I want to add I want to add to visualize this a little bit more. So let's read this. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. So he's now in the fish, and it appears to be 3 days, 3 nights. It could be inclusive or exclusive, not sure. They kind of mean the same thing sometimes. Usually, I guess it means inclusive. And that means darkness inside of the mouth of the fish. Yes, it sounds like the fish comes up to get air so he can breathe in air. Is there some light at those times? I don't know, but mostly darkness. He certainly hasn't eaten or drank anything for 3 days, 3 nights. Again, it could be inclusive. And now, with that visualization, he's inside and he says this, and we learn something before he even is swallowed. It says, "In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead, I called for help, and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the depths." So at this point, he's not in the fish, right? Or the whale or whatever it is. You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas. So he's in the sea, and the current swirled about me. So it has not gone calm yet. There's a lot of waves. There are now currents swirling around him, right? All your waves and breakers, waves can break, right? Swept over me. So when a wave breaks over you, you tend to gasp for air after the water goes over your head. And he's trying to stay afloat, right? In the midst of this bad weather event in the sea. He continues in his prayer. I said, "I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again toward your holy temple." So he remembers in this prayer what he had already said at that moment, apparently, that he's in the water. He said, "I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again toward your holy temple." I'm not entirely sure what this means. Does it mean he's on top of the water and he somehow understands his position? He's towards the holy temple on earth? Or is he basically saying towards his holy temple because he's thinking he's about to die, right? He's looking to God in his kingdom, his holy temple. Probably that, not sure. Number 5, the engulfing waters threaten me. So again, he's staying afloat, trying to survive with not much hope left. Waves are coming, breaking over him. He's gasping. And he continues, the engulfing waters threatened me. The deep surrounded me. He's like no one to help him. Now seaweed has wrapped around my head. So even seaweed is now around him, because in some places of the ocean you have more seaweed than others. Some places are more shallow than others where things can be more to the top. Then it says, verse 6, to the roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath buried me in forever. So now he's referring to these roots. He mentioned seaweed, so I'm thinking it's tied to the seaweed, of course. And the roots of the mountains I sank down. So he must mean underneath the water surface is some sort of mound or mountain of seaweed, and the earth beneath me buried me in. So now he's sinking. Maybe he's caught up into it. Maybe he's weakened, or I don't know. But it has not gone calm yet. But you, Lord my God, brought life up from the pit. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. So he thinks at this point in the first part of 6 that he's now done of living. But then he, in the same verse, but you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. And he quotes, when my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayers rose to you, to your holy temple. So in that moment, he says, when my life was ebbing away, sinking to his death, I suppose, I remembered you, Lord. He has this thought, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. So his physical body's about to cease. Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them. But I, with shouts of great praise, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say, salvations come from the Lord. So this is interesting, isn't it? So in verse 8, those who let's slow down a little bit. So in 7, when life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord. My prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. So this is a plea, right? Those who cling. So now he's referring, I believe, to Nineveh, the Ninevites. Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them. Is that what was going on there? Maybe. But I, the shouts of grateful praise, will sacrifice to you. Does he mean, even though he mentioned up above, where he says, the engulfing water spread me, the deep surrounded me, seaweed was wrapped around my head, to the roots of the mountains I sank down. He's sinking. He's not breathing. He's holding his breath. The earth beneath bared me in forever. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. So now he's in the mouth or whatever of this large fish that has air, and he's reflecting that he's not dead. He's inside of this fish to keep him alive, even though around him it's like this death of water around him, right? But God intervened, and he's still alive. So remember, this is a prayer from the fish. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. So at that moment of before the fish came, he says, when my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. And he quotes, those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them, but I, with shouts of grateful praise, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say salvation comes from the Lord. So once he does this final of turning around and saying, I will do this now for you, Lord, he has changed his mind. He's no longer, he wants his way sort of thing or whatever. He has come to that moment, and he sincerely is humbled and believes in this. And then at that moment, the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah unto dry land. So he finally turned. So what did it take? It took him to running away from God. It took being in a tough situation, being thrown overboard. He started to turn a little bit by saying, it is me. You don't need to die with me. Just throw me overboard. So he's sparing other people. And then before the calmness of the seas that the Lord mentioned in the previous chapter there, he's trying to survive. He's throwing thoughts. Breakers are coming over him. He's trying to gasp for air when there's a chance to stay afloat and so forth. But then he finally goes down, and then he brings the fish that he prepared for him, for Jonah, and keep him alive. And so he didn't want him to die yet. He didn't want him to die at that point. And and then 3 days and 3 nights, and that could mean inclusive, as I said before, but regardless, mostly darkness, if not all darkness. There's no drink, there's no food. And then finally, he says, I will make good. I will say salvation comes from the Lord. And then he sped him out. So I hope this was helpful to you, and thanks for watching, and God bless.